which is commonly referred to as Mainside, where most of the Marines that were stationed at Camp Lejeune would have been, and also their Holcomb Boulevard water system, which back in the 80s, early to mid-80s, there were 8 different drinking water systems aboard the base.
Through this time, what was known, and also the VA system that treats vets, what happens to the families of vets?
Well, I mean, that's, you know, the way that Senator Burr had written his version of the bill, which was S-1518, which eventually got basically overturned or overruled by the Veterans Affairs Committee back in January in a markup vote. Their proposal is that they create a panel of experts, and that these panel of experts would determine whether or not these folks' exposures were related to the chemicals that they were exposed to in the drinking water at Camp Lejeune, and then these people would be afforded TRICARE through the military system. But they would automatically be provided TRICARE for 5 years. But then this panel was supposed to come out and review all these people's case-by-case basis and determine whether or not they were harmed. And if they determined they were harmed, then they would remain on that TRICARE, I guess, for the rest of their lives. I can tell you now that a proposal such as that, when you bring in the military back into the picture, that decision is going to have to be made by the Senate Armed Services Committee, not the Veterans Affairs Committee. And I will guarantee you, I mean, the military has been denying this for years. And I'll guarantee you that the Senate Armed Services Committee is not going to act upon this proposal by the Veterans Affairs Committee. The VA, who was supportive, I mean, not supportive, but these veterans service organizations, such as the American Legion, the Disabled American Veterans, you know, most of these organizations were backing Senator Burr's bill up until 3 days prior to the markup hearing in January. And then all of a sudden, and mysteriously, these folks all come out with a letter against this proposal for these veterans' family members to be provided health care through the VA. I find that awful odd. And, you know, it really looks like somebody solicited those negative letters.
You're a former Master Sergeant, Jerry Ensminger. How does this make you feel about the military? Well, if you look at our website and the title of it, The Few, the Proud, the Forgotten, it was a take off of the Marines slogan, The Few, the Proud, the Marines. I realize that, you know, our motto, Semper Fidelis, still means an awful lot to the people down in the rank and file, in the operating units. But I'm sad to say that when you start dealing with the hierarchy of the Marine Corps and the senior leadership and the civilian leadership of the military services, Semper Fidelis, which means always faithful in Latin, only means something when it benefits them. It's a sad commentary, but once the Department of Defense is finished with you, it's just like you're like a plastic bottle of water, drinking water. As long as that bottle has some water in it, it's a useful asset. Once you're done with it, that plastic bottle becomes a liability. And that's what veterans are to the Department of Defense. They love to go out there and wrap themselves in the flag, and so do a lot of politicians. And they are always talking about, we need to support our military men and their families and our veterans. But
that's all showmanship. Behind the scenes, they're saying, hey, go away.
Well, clearly you're not, Jerome Ensminger, former Master Sergeant Marine. I want to thank you very much for being with us. We certainly will continue to follow this story. Former Marine stationed at Camp Lejeune. His daughter Janie died of leukemia in 1985. I also want to thank Barbara Barrett, the Washington, D.C. reporter for McClatchy News, for exposing this story. As we wrap up today's show with the words of Malcolm X.